I just watched this movie probably for the first time since it came out in 2003. Let's do it. Wrong Turn opens up with this couple, Rich and Hallie, and they're rock climbing in the middle of the woods. And Rich even specifically makes a comment to Hallie saying, "We're like 50 miles away from anything, like nobody's gonna hear you scream out here." And when Rich gets to the top of the cliff that they are climbing, he is murdered by somebody that Hallie cannot see. And then whoever killed him tries to yank her up the cliff, and she has no other choice but to cut her rope, which causes her to fall off the cliff. The fall doesn't kill her, and she tries to escape, but she is caught by this line of barbed wire and pulled back into the woods. Now we cut to some time later and we meet Chris Flynn, who is a medical student, and he is traveling somewhere for like an interview or a meeting. And he gets caught up in this traffic jam, which causes him to have to turn around. And he goes to this gas station to try to get a phone or to try to get directions. And he meets this old dude who might be part of the family that is going to be in this movie. And he gives Chris absolutely no help at all, but Chris manages to find a map and leaves with it. And after Chris leaves, we see the old man say something cryptic about going into the woods. So he obviously knows that something's up. So as Chris is driving down this long, winding dirt road, he gets distracted and he ends up running into another car. And this car consists of this group of friends that are on a road trip. And the reason that they are pulled over on the side of the road is because they ran over some barbed wire, which made them get a flat tire, and now they're stuck. So we have Carly and Scott, who are a couple, Francine and Evan, who are a couple, and Jesse. So both cars are totaled. Nobody has cell phone service because it's 2003 and they have fucking Nokias. So the four of them decide that they're going to walk off and try to go find help. And meanwhile, Evan and Francine stay with the cars. Now, Evan hears something in the woods and goes off to investigate. Horror movies 101, don't fucking do that. And after he's gone for a little while, Francine goes in after to look for him, and she finds his severed ear on the ground. So as she starts to scream and run out of the woods, a figure comes up behind her and wraps this barbed wire around her and offs her with it. So the rest of the group is obviously completely unaware of this, and they end up coming upon this house. They knock on the door and nobody's home, but they decide that they're going to go in and use the phone anyway. And they are absolutely horrified to find body parts all over the place. So as they understand we need to get the fuck out of here, the occupants of the house come home. And it's at this point that we see that the villains in this story are this inbred cannibalistic family. And they come in dragging Francine's corpse with them, so now everybody knows that she's dead. And these four hide and have no choice but to watch as they dismember and eat Francine. So eventually the group all hides there long enough for the cannibals to fall asleep, and they try to make a run for it, but of course the cannibals hear them and wake up and chase them into the woods. So they eventually get to this open field where they find all of these abandoned cars, and they understand that these are the cars of the previous victims of this family. And they come up with a plan, and Chris is like, "I'm gonna run and distract them, you guys get to their truck and drive away." As Chris is going to do this, they shoot him in the leg. Scott then decides that he is going to create a diversion so the two girls can go get Chris. So they manage to grab him and put him in the truck, but when they open the door, Evan's body falls out. But the three of them manage to get in the truck, they drive away, and they find the road, and they wait for Scott, who's running through the woods towards them. But just before he can make it to the car, he is shot in the back with arrows and dies. So obviously the rest of them, especially his girlfriend Carly, are fucking horrified, but they keep driving on. And eventually they get to this old watchtower where they go inside and they find a radio and they're able to call for help. However, the cannibals hear the radio and find them. The three of them barricade the door so the cannibals are unable to get inside, but instead they set the place on fucking fire. So they're looking out the window, they're wondering how they can escape, and they see that they are above all these trees. So Chris takes one for the fucking team and straight up jumps out the window, and the trees break his fall, like he manages to grab onto a branch. So the other two girls do the same thing, and they manage to get to the trees, but now the cannibals start climbing the fucking trees after them. And a very stressful chase ensues, which results in Carly being decapitated by one of them. So now it's just Jesse and Chris, and they devise another plan where Jesse lures one of the cannibals in one direction and then Chris knocks him out with a tree branch. So the two of them eventually get to this cave where they're able to hide out until the morning. The cannibals proceed to find them once daylight comes around. And they proceed to straight up push Chris down this like hill cliff thing and kidnap Jesse. And they take Jesse back to their weird, creepy cannibal cabin. Chris, meanwhile, survives the fall and sets out to look for Jesse, and when he gets to the road, he runs into a police officer, so they got the distress call. But that doesn't last for long because as Chris is trying to explain what's happening to the police officer, he gets an arrow through him. So Chris runs away and watches the cannibals get into their truck. And as they do that, he manages to attach himself to the hitch underneath and they drive to the cabin. Back at the cabin, we see that Jesse is still alive, but she is tied up and they are preparing to eat her. But before they are able to kill her, Chris shows up and sets the cabin on fire. Took one out of your book, bitch. and then he drives their own truck through the cabin wall. So all three of the cannibals start to fight Chris, but he manages to fight them off and untie Jesse. And as the two of them escape the burning house, Chris takes a shotgun that he had gotten from the cop and he shoots it at the house, which causes it to explode, killing the cannibals inside. So Chris and Jesse survive, they get in the pickup truck, and they drive back to that gas station. And we once again see this old dude who looks at them as if he's surprised that they survived. He and Jesse take a map and they get the fuck out of there, and the credits roll. And there is a post-credit scene that shows that one of the cannibals did survive, hence all the sequels.